Thank you for joining us for Montgomery State of the City Town Hall. This is my second State of the City, but it's my first time to be able to do this with all of you here. And for that, I am grateful. I appreciate you joining us tonight. I'm also happy to see so many of my fellow elected leaders, our leadership of Montgomery City Council. That's here. We thank you for being here. Members of the Montgomery County Commission, we thank you for being here as well. Members of our state legislative delegation, we thank you for the work that you do. And all of you who sit on Montgomery City boards and commissions for free and do so much work and do so much good for this community, we thank you for being here tonight. I certainly want to thank and recognize members of our school board. We have our chair with us here, and there was big news today. We want to congratulate you, and we're excited about the capital project plan, and we are grateful for your vision and for what you want to do for public education in this community. Thanks to the work of so many administrators, teachers, parents, students, we're no longer under state intervention with our public schools. That ended just a few months ago, and for that, I think that deserves a round of applause. After 2 years of struggle and sacrifice due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it can be difficult to see the promise that is before us. And even as we grapple with the new Omicron variant of COVID-19, I have never been more hopeful nor more proud of Montgomery's people. It's best represented by what we see here tonight. So many of the people who make this city what it is are here at tables and are here in various parts of this multiplex to share with you what has been going on, what they're doing every day. So often the focus is on those of us that are in the elected or appointed positions, but it really is the men and women of these departments and these divisions that you see beside us that really make this city and this community go. And I want to thank them for everything that they have done throughout the challenge of this pandemic over almost the last 2 years. That's why I'm really pleased to support all of the efforts that we have before us that we will talk about tonight. Because so many of those are important, not only to the present, but they're important to the future. And through that, I can never be more proud of what work has been accomplished by volunteers and by men and women of this city and of this community and all the things that we have done to move forward. That's why I'm pleased to report that the state of this city is resilient. As we seek to confront the challenges before us, and as we continue to move Montgomery forward, it's that resiliency that we have shown, is that resiliency that we will continue to rely on to put this city in a better position for economic vitality and equity for all those that live here. And when I think about where we are as a community, I believe we're at the precipice of lasting, meaningful progress and substantial change. This is a transformative moment. In the past year, Montgomery continued its transformation into a more progressive and equitable community, a city open to new ideas, new growth, and new opportunities. My administration worked with our partners at the Chamber of Commerce and Montgomery County to help bring Amazon to our city. Our success resulted in a $100 million plus investment that will create 500 good-paying jobs. This puts us at the forefront of the tech space, not only in Alabama, but in the Southeast when it comes to logistics and when it comes to supply chain. This is just the beginning. Still, we know that bringing new business to Montgomery must go hand in hand with supporting existing job creators and encouraging minority entrepreneurship. For instance, I'm currently reaching out to developers, CEOs in our local region, statewide, and across the country, as well as internationally, about bringing their businesses and their capital investments right here to Montgomery in order to cultivate and strengthen our economy while also amplifying our overall business community. I asked them for two things. It's pretty simple. Help us build capital and help us build capacity. If we're going to have a true business climate that works for everyone, we must have a well-funded business community, a well-supported business community, full of continuous growth and scale, in particular for those women-owned businesses, those black-owned businesses, and those brown-owned businesses. That is important that everybody take part in the progress and the prosperity of what we want to bring not only to our city, but to all of Central Alabama and, of course, our entire state. This year, we flipped the switch on 2 new tech accelerators in the heart of downtown Montgomery. The Lab on Dexter and Montgomery Tech Lab will complement our ongoing efforts to bolster Central Alabama's tech ecosystem. We are proud to lead the way in innovation of Alabama. We are proud to have leaders that sit on the council statewide that will talk about and implement the changes that we need in order for our economy to work better, more efficiently, and more effectively for everyone. And we aren't just bringing minority entrepreneurs and local startups to the table, we're expanding the table. And it's a big table, and there's room for more seats for everyone. Now, I'm proud of the success we're already seeing, whether that's expansion at Fearless, a tech company originally based in Baltimore, who now has an office in Montgomery, or watching the growth of Lucky Rabbit and Analog, 2 startup companies who now have a burgeoning presence in our community thanks to our Tech Accelerator contest. Our strategy is continuing to deliver positive results, and businesses are catching on. In fact, the University of Alabama reported confidence among Montgomery's business community reached its highest level since the Great Recession and outpaced that of Alabama's other large cities. That says a lot about you as much as it does us, because you have the confidence in what we're doing, and the work and the vision that you have is being executed at a high level. Our unemployment rate dropped to 3.6% for the month of November, which was the last month reported for 2021. With 24 new projects and nearly 1,000 jobs announced in 2021, we anticipate that unemployment number dropping lower and our jobs number growing higher. Those projects amount to $226 million in capital investment, and they complement what we're doing at the community level. We're continuing to breathe new life into Montgomery's cultural and historic tourism with a branding campaign to complement the immense history here. That campaign is called Experience Montgomery, and its impact will have a national and international reach. We have partnered with some of the best in this country, from Nashville to Washington, D.C., to others about how to brand, how to expose our city, how to expose our makers, how to expose our curators in the city to people who want to come learn more about the United States, in particular the rich history that we have here. That's important, and we want to make sure we're there to welcome them when they come to our city. But our strategy doesn't just stop there. It includes revitalizing historic corridors in West and North Montgomery. Right now, we are fighting to preserve and reinvigorate the Oak Street corridor and Centennial Hill neighborhood. This is now much easier thanks to $500,000 in funding that we received from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Our consistent lobbying of federal agencies during this time will not only pay off through efforts like this, it will pay off through efforts around the other economic development initiatives that we have, workforce development initiatives. Those are the things that we're seeking as we collaborate city, county, schools, public, private, to bring more growth and more opportunity to our city. But we don't want to forget some of the more basic things, like West Fairview Avenue, which we want to become more walkable. We want it to be safer. And because of this, we will begin new construction on sidewalks, streetscaping, and more in just a matter of months. As a city government, we are committed to efficient and effective service for our residents and our businesses. Now, thanks to the diligence of our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Betty Beeville, and her team, we see an improved financial position that gave us the opportunity to have more reserves than this city has seen in well over 20 years. It also provided us with the flexibility to give 19% pay raises to our sanitation workers, 14% pay raises to our police and fire and other first responders, and 10% pay raises to others that work within the city. Their hard work cannot be measured by what we pay them, but we try to make sure that we compensate them in a way that restores the dignity of their work. But we didn't just stop there with our financial investments in our city. We funded quality of life projects in our communities. This year, we'll be investing $50 million of new revenue into the core of our community, Montgomery's neighborhoods, through a campaign called Montgomery Forward. So when you see the signs and when you see the billboards and when you see the commercials, I want you to know that's your dollars going back into this community. Several of these projects are already in process, and others will start in the weeks and months to come. As mayor, there are no big or little projects. There are only important projects. And maybe the dollar amounts are different, and sometimes the footprint's different, but they are all important. So whether it's building a new classroom to house a Head Start program at the Newtown Community Center, or a new roof at the Loveless Community Center so that our kids won't get rained on in the gym, so that seniors can have an opportunity to be in spaces like this in their own community. These projects are just as important as a state-of-the-art fire station coming to West Fairview Avenue and Court Street that we hope to break ground on within the next 6 weeks. It's just as important as the $1 million that I've allocated to each city council person to invest in his or her district. Now let me be clear, they don't have $1 million per person. That's $1 million over all of the council members themselves to invest the way they see fit and the way you have shared with them you want to see your community change. Montgomery Forward will also work in tandem with a campaign called Montgomery Thrive. Through Montgomery Thrive, we have partnered with our partners and our co-leaders at the Montgomery County Commission to encourage public participation as we seek to explore ways to empower our residents and enhance our community with funding from President Biden's American Rescue Plan Act. $90+ million. And that's not including the money that has gone to the school board from that same American Rescue Plan funds. We have discussed and we talked about on in. How do we make sure that we invest this money wisely? How do we make sure that we don't get caught in parochial conversations around whether it's city or county? We want to make the most difference in this community so that 3 to 5 years from now, we look back and you all see the return on the investment was worth this once in a generational opportunity. Over the past 2 years, we have been successful in ushering change by prioritizing many long-awaited projects. Many of those directly impact those of you who live, work, and play in our city. Yet, to my administration, it's more about the people than the projects. It's people over the pavement. Yes, paving road matters, but it doesn't matter as much if we have broken people. And we want to make sure that we invest in those programs and those initiatives that help the residents of the city of Montgomery. And that means prioritizing quality of life, education, workforce development, and delivering on our promise to expand opportunity to all in Montgomery. Last year, we introduced initiatives like Operation Hope and Bank On, a public-private partnership, one designed to empower our residents by providing the tools needed to achieve financial independence. They go hand in hand with our investments in education and workforce development. To be a leader in the new economy of jobs, our students and lifelong learners must be equipped with the skills and knowledge to thrive in the workforce of the future. We partnered with Apple, Ed Farm, and Montgomery Public Schools to launch Engineering Codes. This was a highly competitive competition to attract Apple as a first step in building a long-term relationship with a company as innovative and as productive as Apple to bring Ed Farm into our public schools, not to our magnet programs, but to our traditional public schools, so that those students, those teachers can learn the latest technology around coding and other STEM-based learning methods so that they can be ready for a new career in technology. We didn't stop there. We worked with Alabama Power and Trinidad State Community College to build a brand new career tech and training program. Not everyone wants to code. Not everyone wants to go to college, and that's just fine. But we want you to have the same opportunity to learn a skill. And the Line Worker Training Academy will help fill 500 jobs in Montgomery and throughout this region. This will impact not only our city, but it will impact all of Central Alabama and our entire state. Graduates from this program will see starting salaries of more than $70,000 a year. And that's all without going to college and assuming any student loan debt. I will continue to be a champion for our public schools and work with our business community, the Chamber of Commerce, our colleges, and our nonprofits to make sure our graduating students have a plethora of opportunities, an opportunity to go pro, if you will, right here at home, rather than taking their talents to another city. We are working with the Chamber of Commerce to soon launch a strategic talent recruitment program to bring our best and brightest back to Montgomery. We want to keep the best and brightest right here, and we want to attract those who never thought they would call Montgomery home and show them what we have to offer as a city and as a community. Speaking of home, every citizen of Montgomery, regardless of their neighborhood, regardless of their income level, regardless of their zip code, should feel safe in their home. They should feel safe when taking a walk. They should feel safe getting out of their car. And right now, not enough of our citizens feel safe. Public safety is my top priority in this new year. It has been a top priority since we have come into office, and there is no other higher priority that we can have than the peace and sanctity for the people of this city. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, our city, like many across the United States, saw an epidemic of violent gun-related crime. It's been a national problem, and one that cannot be solved overnight, but it is one that we seek to address every day. It is a challenge that will require action from all of us. And I want to thank so many who work at this every day. The neighborhood leaders, the nonprofits, those in our schools, those in our community, the mentors, the volunteers, so many who seek to try to bring solutions to this issue. We will continue to do our part. This year, the city will invest $500,000 into gunfire detection and prevention systems. That means acquiring and installing new cameras, license plate readers, and shot spotter units throughout Montgomery. These systems are working. We will also continue to recruit and retain the best and brightest that we can in law enforcement by providing reinforcement for tuition and other lateral incentives that make our police department the place to be for those who are law enforcement professionals. Last year, our office confiscated more than 1,650 illegal firearms. Montgomery Police Department solvability rate for violent crime stands at almost 78%, whereas the national average hovers in the low 60s. This makes our solvability rate one of the nation's best, and we're proud of the work that they do. We're putting violent offenders in jail, and that's why I joined with Montgomery County District Attorney Darrell Bailey to call on our judicial branch to raise the bail for murder from $150,000. And Assistant District Attorney Darrell Bailey answered that call by asking for it to be raised to $1.5 million. And I commend him for his teamwork and his partnership with all of law enforcement in our city and our county. A higher bond rate for violent offenders will give our community a better understanding of the type of change that's needed to make our neighborhood safer. Now, we know that the answer to this is not to arrest our way out of violence. It's going to take the investment in our parks and recreation programs. It's going to take investment in our conflict resolution initiatives. It's going to take investment working with our faith leaders, our education leaders, and many who are on the ground in the community every day who are giving us ideas and solutions of how to address and how to reach those who are on the margins. And so just as we're calling on cooperation from our judicial system, we're calling on greater collaboration from our state legislative branch. 2 bills were pre-filed this session that would threaten the work that we're doing to combat illegal weapons and gun-related crime. These bills aim to repeal permitting for concealed weapons and make it harder for our docs to share evidence when certain weapons are used to commit a crime. These laws will make it exponentially more difficult for our police to do their work and to protect this city. That said, we will continue to work hard through our legislative partners to challenge these laws and to oppose these laws, not only as a collective municipal government, through resolutions and through initiatives, but also collectively through our associations and our organizations, because it's those of us that are on the front lines that are hearing from many of you who will get the calls, not many in our state legislative branch. We will soon welcome a new police chief to our community. We have vetted a total of 42 applicants from 15 different states, including interim chief Ramona Harris, who has been a steady presence for the department during this time of transition. Ultimately, we will name finalists and make our selection in coordination with input from community leaders like you and neighborhood stakeholders who care about the future of our city. This is important because we don't only want a chief who yields results, but we want someone who understands the dynamics of our community. Policing has never been harder than it is right now. There is a change afoot in how communities police, yet respond to the challenges so many have around violent crime and access to guns. It's challenging work. And I commend the men and women in blue who protect our city every day, 24/7, to make sure they do everything they can. Just last night, I was made aware of our police chasing down some suspects who were breaking into cars in an apartment complex. They had a ring going for a number of months. They thought they could outrun the law. They have been for some time, but they can't do it forever. And I want to commend those men and women who just last night were involved in helping to bring a little bit more peace to those residents in that apartment complex who are getting their cars broken into. It's tough, and I realize that. And regardless of who that police chief is, we're going to have to work with them and collaborate with them to make this a better community and one that we want to see for all of us. Another key component to our efforts to address the issue of crime is the establishment of our Office of Violence Prevention. I thank our City Council for approving this initiative during the budget season. The Office of Violence Prevention will work to interrupt and address the root causes of violence in our community. Now, we know this won't happen overnight, but I believe, based on data from other cities who have implemented this for well over 10 years, it will undoubtedly lead and give us positive results and a more successful approach to being proactive and preventing many of the things that we read about or we see on our social media feeds that impact the safety of all of us right here in Montgomery. Now, just as we talk about preventing violence in our community, we must recommit ourselves to criminal justice reform. We cannot treat nonviolent offenders the same as those who threaten the safety and the sanctity of our city. For decades, the system sought to trap citizens in a cycle of punitive punishment, one that only led to poverty. To remedy this, we will work towards ending excessive court costs, fines and fees for low-level offenses that do not threaten the safety and sanctity of our city. I also know that many Montgomeryans have raised concerns about the subject of panhandling, while inquiring about how we can help those experiencing homelessness in our city. While refraining from stigmatization, we must confront these issues with kindness and compassion. We are working with nonprofits and the Montgomery Emergency Management Agency to aid the needs of the least of these as best we can. And I want to commend those who continue to do that work. Our nonprofit organizations, so many of you serve on those boards. Our nonprofit leaders who are in this space, who are giving us ideas and solutions for us to seek and for us to try to bring to the city at the local, state, and national level. And that is why this administration seeks to launch a task force to address homelessness in the upcoming weeks. Another concern many of you have raised deals with the issue of litter and trash. Don't be dismayed. I hear you. And not only do I hear you, this weekend I heard from my mom, who told me that I had to do something to clean up this city. And when I told her what we were working on, she said, that's not good enough. And so, to my mother and to you, I know what we're doing is not good enough. And that's why we have to put together an action plan, and we're taking strides to address this issue. Litter and trash aren't only on the ground, but the subject finds its way also to us via our council members and when we're just going to the grocery store. When we're out interacting kind of off the job, we hear from you, and I appreciate that. It shows that you care and it shows your concern. And so I want to let you know that in this year's budget, we initiated a $100,000 to go towards the Montgomery Clean City Commission, of which the Montgomery City Council approved. Additionally, we will soon announce a new neighborhood services director to help coordinate a Clean City campaign that delivers results. And as long as Hollywood doesn't come take them first, you may have seen our City Council President Pro Tem, C.C. Calhoun, and Councilman Ed Grimes, who have introduced a public service announcement, encouraging all of us to clean up our city. Now, if you haven't seen it, don't be concerned. I don't think it is going viral on TikTok. I don't think it's received enough retweets on Twitter. I haven't seen enough shares on Instagram, and I don't think he's got enough likes on Facebook. I don't even know if their own family has seen it, but I have, and I commend them for coming together to bring forward that public service announcement, to do something to get all of us on the same page around cleaning up our city. And so for that, I want to say to Councilman Grimes and Councilman Calhoun, thank you for your effort to bring attention to this matter. And so Montgomery, as we mark the third year of this administration, the beginning of this third year, and 2+ years of weathering the storm of uncertainty amid the COVID-19 pandemic, I want to thank you for your resilience. I thank you for your service. I thank you for your sacrifice. I thank you for volunteering. I thank you for your interest, giving up your time with your family at your job, and whatever you're doing to give us ideas and to give us feedback It takes all of us to make this community what we want it to be. It's not just the mayor, it's not just the city council, it's not just our cabinet directors, it's not just even the 2,600 employees that we have in the city. It takes everybody that lives in Montgomery, that cares about Montgomery, to help us reach our full potential. And this includes thousands of success stories that may never be in the headlines, but we see and share every day. And like so many of us, when I look out over the city of Montgomery, I don't just see buildings and museums, schools and parks. I see parents, I see grandparents, I see young people, I see children, grandkids. I see all the potential and all the opportunity that we want to bring to everyone that lives here. And I can tell you, as I have told so many who I've been on Zooms with, who I've been in meetings with, or who I've gone to meet from the halls of Congress all the way to the suites of the largest corporations, that our city is resilient. And I believe in our city, and I believe in our capacity to do much more. And I believe that we're committed to do just that. And together, we can boldly move forward with passion and purpose. And together, we can realize an even more prosperous and equitable city. When I took office, I had a game plan, and I had a vision for the city. Many on the city council, many in our cabinet discussed how to achieve it. Only be knocked off course temporarily by the pandemic. But I want you to know, while that pandemic may have delayed us, it has not deterred us. And that is why I look forward to this year, even as we look back at the challenges and opportunities of 2021. I'm optimistic that we can achieve better outcomes by working together. And I thank you for allowing me to answer this call and lead the charge for a greater city that we can all be proud to call home. The great Harlem Renaissance writer and North Soul native, Zora Neale Hurston, said it best: there are years that ask questions and years that answer them. This year will be a year that answers. Thank you. God bless our first responders, our essential workers, our troops at home and abroad, and may God continue to bless our families and neighbors and the city of Montgomery. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Early White from the Madison Park community. I commend the mayor and the city council for everything they've done, but I have a few questions. Said we're going to move forward, and there's everybody working together. And I commend about the different areas of town, of the city that you're working on, but nothing was mentioned about that. Poor little Madison Park, that no administration has ever done anything. Now, Mayor, you told us that the store and the fire hydrant streets, once the infrastructure bill has passed, it has passed. My question is, when will that project get started? Have you received the money? If not, why can't you use the American Rescue Plan funds? My other question is about the community center in Madison Park. You told us that when Ms. McQuarrie was in, she told us that she was going to get the engineers out and that project was going to get started as soon as you release that money. So I want to know what the status is on that. We haven't heard anything really standstill.
Thank you for your question. Thank you for your question. One, we have not received the infrastructure money yet. Trust me, all of us, from the city council, to the county commission, to our legislative delegation, we're counting down to receive that money. We were in a meeting today in part with our city council leadership and leadership on the county commission discussing some of the grants and initiatives from the American Rescue Plan Act funds. I do not have an immediate timeline on that, when the money will be released to cities and states. We're working on getting that information to you. And I know you come down to our council meetings quite a bit, and I appreciate that. And we're going to commit again that infrastructure money will go towards not only Madison Park, but areas such as Macedonia, areas such as over Old Sullivan Highway, and that has been relayed to our Congresswoman Terry Sewell. It has been relayed personally from me to Senator Tuberville and to the Chief of Staff for Senator Richard Shelton. So as soon as we can get the allocation for those federal dollars, we plan to put them there first. We think it's been long overdue, and we understand that frustration. As it relates to the Parks and Recreation initiative, one of the things that we are doing is we just brought on a construction manager for the city. So for some of the dollars we got, I think maybe the new allocation money we got from, I call it new revenue in my speech. But the money we got through our bond refinancing, our construction managers will be helping allocate those not only to Madison Park, but to community centers such as E.D. Nixon and others that are on that list that Ms. McCreary submitted prior to her retirement. And we anticipate that through our Montgomery Forward initiative that Madison Park is high on our list. Right now we're already working on Loveless, and we're working on, I believe it's Newtown, through those funds. So I would think within the next 3 to 6 months you'll see some effort on that's tangible that you can see. We've got a long list of capital improvements that we're utilizing for that money. The Boone Park is part of that. The fire station on West Fairview is part of those funds, and there's some other initiatives in there as well. And we want to make sure we address those community centers, and we want to make sure we bring those up to standards for all of the neighborhoods that need them, so that we can implement our programming that we really believe can be a part of some of the challenges that I mentioned previously.
Okay, thank you very much. You know that I will definitely be keeping Madison Park on your mind.
Yes, ma'am.
I will be at those meetings once again to do something about it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Now we'll take an online question. We're going to alternate online and in person. Rick will read the online question for the minute.
Our online question is, when is this, what are your plans, if any, to increase or improve the retention rate of young professionals who move here specifically for work? Yes, sir, I think it's a question for you.
Do you mind if I go up there? I mean, thank you. So, the biggest thing that we can do, and we talk about this quite a bit, is we know that we're in a competition for talent and resources. So, we partner with the county on the Right Ward initiative to improve our quality of life in this city. We work very diligently with our school board and our legislative leaders and our private business leaders to invest in our public schools. That's very important to young families. And we're working very hard in our downtown development as well to bring in more retail. One of the things that we initiated was a retail specialist position that will work in the Department of Economic Development. We will have an economic developer starting with the city in the month of February, and that person will be tasked to really follow up on corridors throughout the city, but also to make sure that we're a place for small businesses, we're a place for mid-sized businesses, and we're a place for large businesses. When many people who are young professionals are looking at a city, they can work remotely. Councilman Guinness and I have had that conversation. When they're looking at a city, they're looking at what is there to do. Do you have things for my family? We've talked about streetscapes. We've talked about the investment in Lagoon Park. We've talked about investing in other parks around the city. We've even talked about converting more of our dilapidated properties to green space. So quality of life is very, very important to young professionals. And we want anyone, whether they're a student at one of our 2-year, 4-year colleges, or whether they're a young professional that's working that's out of college, that they're priority to us. I have a Mayor's Young Professionals Council, which is not shy about sharing their ideas and their dissatisfaction about certain things that they see in the city and things that they want us to address. Many of those we talk about, whether it's more music venues, whether it's how they improve the amphitheater so that we can get more concerts here, or whether it is to make sure that we're doing things even outside the spectrum of tourism for our everyday residents. And so that is a consistent priority for our administration. It's a consistent conversation that we have with our partners at the Chamber of Commerce and with city and county leaders, and it's something we'll continue to do. So we want more young people to be here. We need their energy. We need their innovation. We need their ideas. We want them to serve on boards and commissions, and we want them to give us that feedback and to kind of tell us, how we can move a little faster and what we can do to not only keep them, but for them to go out and champion our city so that we can bring some of their friends here as well.
Take another question from the audience. Is there anyone?
Right here. This question is for Mayor Reedy. First off, thank you for spending your time with us. I'm glad I get to follow up that last question. Just this past weekend, we had the new professional, I'm from Forest Hills, a new professional moved from Mississippi into Alabama, into Forest Hills. As he was moving, we had a high-speed chase in front of his house. We had several robberies, as we do every weekend. We had the bicyclers, we had everything, and then we had the shooting right behind his house. I don't have all the answers, and I don't expect anyone really to, but I would like for everyone to come together to come up with better solutions. I have one solution. We have a lot of abandoned properties in Forest Hills, a lot of empty homes. I've been following other cities. Just in Birmingham, Alabama alone, went in and sued the owners of these nuisance properties and shut them down. What does it take for us to do this? There's got to be a way of holding them responsible, holding the homeowners responsible. The homeowners do not care. They are just leaving and leaving it for us. I personally live between 3 meth houses, and that is unacceptable. One, I've called the fire department on 3 times in the past 30 days. They're starting fires inside their house. Yes, inside their house, guys. They have no utilities, so they're trying to stay warm. These are active drug addicts. They're running their drugs up and down our streets. We are not safe in Forest Hills. This goes from Forest Hills, Del Rey, Morning View, Eastbrook, Johnstown, Fox Hollow, County Downs. If I'm missing anyone in Midtown, I apologize. But if the city of Montgomery loses Midtown, you are going to lose the entire city. I don't need a microphone, I'll put it down actually. But if we lose Midtown, we're going to lose the entire city. I built a house out in Glenwood, next to Wind Lakes. I sold that house in a divorce and moved to Forest Hills. My eyes were opened, y'all. I was living in La La Land out there. We had 3 home invasions and my car was broken into twice, but that was nothing compared to what I put up with on a weekly basis here in Midtown. We need better solutions. I've been told for 4 years, July was 4 years, we're working on it, we're going to do it. We are aware of those houses. Yes, we know all about it. 4 years is too long. Let's do it now. Let's start now. Let's start tomorrow. 8 a.m., 7:30. Let's do it now. We can hold the homeowners responsible.
I agree. Thank you for your points and thank you for your passion. Thank you for bringing those issues to the table. I'm going to ask, as I answer this question, Chief Harris and our Chief Building Official is here, Kip Tail, and ask him to come up and address it. the housing code issue. Let me address very, very pointedly. That's not a good first impression for anybody moving in on the first day of the experience. But it's not a good daily impression for people who have lived in Forest Hills for any amount of time. So it's not something we ever want to get accustomed to. I want you to know that City Council consistently brings up those issues to us around traffic, around issues of abandoned houses, and again, today we were talking about the establishment of a land bank. This is something that we believe will help us acquire dilapidated houses from estates or from absentee landlords so that we can either rehab them or take them down. Believe it or not, there are many council districts that have even more abandoned houses than what you described. I've got 3 within a block of me. And there are certain things that in Alabama that the property owner has rights to, and it's unlike other states. And so we run into some of that at the municipal level, that we can't just go and take a home, even if it's one that's has several claims to it. Even if it's one that's fallen into foreclosure, it's very hard for us to address that issue. But nonetheless, we're working on that particular piece about how to address dilapidated housing.
What about the ones with multiple police reports? Multiple.
So even with a police report, I'm sure our men and women that are going out are doing what they can to with those folks that are in the home. Those are challenging societal issues that we're trying to work through. A lot of our apartments, we work with chemical abuse, substance abuse folks, as well as those who may be suffering from mental illness. And then there are just those people who are doing outright criminal activity. And so we want to separate all of those, and we seek to do that. I do want to say this last point, because it came up again earlier today. The City Council did allocate more dollars. I think it's about $500,000 for dilapidated homes so that we can tear those down. We're trying to be much more proactive about that, responsive to that. And we also believe that through the creation of a land bank, we can get more of those houses torn down. And of course, the older parts of our city where so many of our council people hear from some of those residents that are really doing the best they can. With that said, I'll turn some of the crime questions over to Chief Harris as well.
Yes, sir, thank you. And I guess, ma'am, I'm familiar with you from the town hall meeting for Midtown Homeowners Association, so we do appreciate your concern and comments for the neighborhood. And as you stated, in that particular area, we have been dealing with specific locations or residences within that area. When we go in and we do enforcement, we're making arrests, you do have documented reports. So often what we see is we make an arrest of the offender. So instead of just making the arrest on the offender, one of the things that we're looking at doing now is turning the focus to the area. Like the mayor said, we want to look at those quality of life issues. We don't want that area, that particular neighborhood to be affected by it. The arrest is only temporary. It takes that person to jail and then they're back out and that problem is still there. So since then, we've been working with housing code inspections, also particular properties in the neighborhood that you're making reference to. We've reached out to homeowners. Some of the homeowners, as you stated, are not primary homeowners here in the state. They don't live in a particular neighborhood that's being affected by the problem. They're out of town in different locations, so we've made contacts with them and constantly communicating with them to let them know the issues that we have. As far as the enforcement part of it, there is a process with everyone, so we have to go in there and do it by law legally the way that we can. And we've become a nuisance because we keep targeting the problem and dealing with the problem at hand. But as I stated earlier, it typically results in the arrest. So we're looking at other avenues to address those problems. We're also looking at the conditions of a particular neighborhood. Why is it a problem? We look at property issues in neighborhoods. So we've been working with city council. We've been working with licensing revenue. We've been working with other city departments to address those quality of life issues that you're seeing, and not just focusing on the offender as law enforcement.
Chief, we got right behind you, Kippy Tate, our chief building official, maybe you address some of the housing code issues that were also mentioned.
Good afternoon, or good evening. Ma'am, we are definitely aware that issue that you brought up is an issue that we, in my area, take very seriously. we have boots on the ground every day addressing the types of issues that you're bringing to us tonight. As a matter of fact, we spoke in our Monday morning meeting, which I meet my guys every Monday morning, about the exact same thing that you brought up and how can we get ahead of this. Quite frankly, this is an arm of the operation that I'm in charge of, and I wish we could put out of business because it affects all of us, it affects the quality of life, and if no one feels safe, then that's certainly a problem that we have to address immediately. What are we doing in the morning? Well, right now, we have an inspector that's in charge of that territory. He will be made aware of the issue that you brought forward tonight, and I'll expect him to bring back to us the results of his actions, and then we'll put plans in place at that point to see what we can do from the ordinance perspective of the city and the legal side addressing these types of problems. But this is something that, as I said before, this is an arm of my operation that we can put out of business. Unfortunately, we have to fight this thing even harder than it's coming towards us. But I do want to say this, we have a fellow with us now, his name is Thomas Carr. He's been fighting this battle too, and I'd like for Thomas to give you a little bit more detail about how this part of the operation works so that you'll have a good understanding of what we're actually doing from day to day.
Yes, ma'am. I was at the town hall meeting with Chief Harris, and I heard your comment at that time. We had. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I can see it. I kept looking for you.
I know. I moved out right now.
We have gone ahead and initiated some due process on those houses, and we've also worked closely with Chief Harris to identify the problems so that we can address each structure as we go along.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
Mayor, we have an online question. One, there are actually two, but they're about the same topic. When is the city going to pour its resources into building up the rest of Montgomery, like downtown and East Chase? And then why does the west side of Montgomery have the same grocery stores, community centers, YMCA's like East Montgomery?
That's a great question. I can give a full talk on that. A lot of people here probably could too. Let me tell you what we're doing. I think that's what's most important. We are working now on a I-65 corridor plan with the Chamber of Commerce and our City Council to address improving the gateways to West Montgomery, but we're also working with private developers and business about how to address the absence of retail. One of the reasons why we wanted to bring in-house a full-time economic development director was because of that issue. And it's not just West Montgomery. We often forget about North Montgomery. And we forget that there are large parts of town that have not had the type of investment that we see, certainly where the growth and the newness of our city has been probably for the last 30 plus, if not 40 years. Part of that's due to the fact we didn't have a strategic plan for about 57 years, is that correct? 60 years. We didn't have zoning updates in 57 years. So without a plan, you kind of get a hodgepodge of investment. What we're doing is really assault best practices through many of our organizations, National League of Cities, U.S. Conference of Mayors, and that's what we're doing in collaboration not only with the private sector, but also with the public sector that are interested in mid-sized cities like Montgomery that want to address the issue of food deserts. In my speech, I talked about the Oak Street Corridor. One of the things that Desmond Wilson and his team over at Community Development have been doing a very good job of doing is identifying affordable housing opportunities that we can bring to census tracts like many of those in West Montgomery. What I've been able to do, even throughout COVID, has been to have conversations with Economic Development Association as well as those individual developers about the history of West Montgomery, about the importance of Highway 80, Selma Highway, and the importance of those thoroughfares. One of the things that Director of Planning and I were supposed to talk about today was an initiative regarding Normandale Mall. I'm really excited about that. But it's not just that, it's also public-private partnerships that we're working with to bring not only affordable housing, but retail and job training spaces to urban core communities that we're talking about. And when you have the combination of that as well as international foundations who are interested in Montgomery, who are excited that we're reaching out and want to partner with us, as they've done in other cities, to revitalize their overlooked and underserved areas, I feel that the future is very bright, and I don't feel that future is far off. I mean, I feel that future is 2022. So we're excited about what we're hearing from the investment community. We're excited about what we're hearing from the public sector, and we're excited about even what we've heard from Congressman Sewell's office about how we develop the Selma Montgomery Trail. And for those who don't know, the Selma Montgomery Trail is Highway 80 coming along Mobile Highway all the way around Fairview. There's a lot that we can do with federal dollars. So it's not just city dollars in that, in the Department of Interior and why they want to invest there. So we believe, and we have challenged those private sector leaders that say they believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion to focus on the equity word. And we have challenged them to look at our data in West Montgomery. And we have challenged them to look at ways that they can use their influence to bring the type of necessity, whether it be through public health or whether it be through private investment, to areas like West Montgomery and North Montgomery as well. And so I appreciate the question, and it's something that we're actively working on. And again, I believe that we'll see some announcements beyond what I mentioned in my speech in the first half of this year. So thanks for that question.
Good evening, thank you, Mayor Reed and City Council. I first want to say my name is Angela and I'm with the South Johnson Neighborhood Association. We want you to keep us in your thoughts for a community center because we need places for our children to go.
What neighborhood association?
South Johnson.
South Johnson, yes, ma'am.
South Johnson Neighborhood Association. We really need places for the children to go because we need to start with children at an early age. And we start at an early age, around 7 and 8, and grow them up with mentorship. We see positive outcomes with the children. So please keep us in your thoughts in reference to get us a community center in our neighborhood. My question to you and the City Council is in reference to business license in Montgomery. When a person applies for a business license, they apply for a specific business license. We have several businesses, especially on Norman Bridge Road, that are mechanic shops. However, if you go by those particular businesses, they look like salvage yards. They sit by drainage ditches where there's a drainage runoff. I've talked to the water protection representative from Montgomery. It is really bad. We have those old cars coming towards the roadway, which is unsafe for our citizens driving on the bridge road. But those businesses really need to be held in compliance and need to have compliance checks because they are not operating under those particular licenses. After speaking with Montgomery Water Protection Agency, I was informed that their hands were tied due to the fact that this particular business operates as a mechanic shop. So if it's listed as a mechanic shop, and you got cars sitting there for 1, 2, or 3 years, it's no longer a mechanic shop, it's a salvage yard.
That's right.
So we just need some help, because right now, even today, there's a sign that says no standing either side. Now we got cars migrating back to Norman Bridge Road. It's a death trap, and I don't want anyone in the city to get hurt coming around that curve.
If I can ask you this, so we can make sure we get to as many questions as we can. What would you like for us to do?
When they apply for a business license, check the balances to compliance. If it's a mechanic shop, it should be a mechanic shop, not a salvage yard.
Yes,
If cars are sitting there 2, 3 years and the grass is growing up all around it, you know it's not a mechanic shop. Those cars are stacked. With a salvage yard, you go down the pull apart, they have into the water system, and it dumps into Potomac Creek. We have wildlife that can be affected by that, also our health, but those areas sit right behind our homes and our residential area. So check and balances, compliance rounds. What I mean by compliance rounds, someone from the city going out and checking to make sure that these folks are following their business license. But right now, that's not happening.
Point well taken. Thank you.
All right, Mayor, we have one question I want to make sure we capture, from some young people.
All right.
Thank you, but I wanted to know, how can we stop, like, kids from getting guns? Because that's how most of the people get killed these days, by young kids getting guns. And I wanted to know, how can we stop them?
Thank you for the question. First of all, thank y'all for being here. Thanks for bringing, I appreciate that. I want you to tell me your name, and if you will just repeat your question, I want to make sure I heard you correctly.
My name is Saviana Knight, but I wanted to know, how can we stop kids from getting guns? Because that's how most of our people these days dying from kids getting guns.
Thank you for the question, and again, thank y'all for being here. I think the fact that you're here is positive. I think it shows again that we got young leaders that are ready to move us forward and hold us accountable. And I appreciate the question. Thank you. What I would like to say as it relates to young people getting guns is what I said offline. So let me just tell you what I said in private conversations. Disagreements are as old as mankind. All right? So disagreements aren't new. How you settle those disagreements, that's what's different about this generation. We had disagreements in my generation growing up here, going to the bowling alley. People settled it in a way that wasn't fatal. All right? That's not to say that I was perfect or that anybody in here is perfect that grew up in Montgomery that I know or that I heard of. Some were older, some were a little younger. So we made mistakes and we did things that we probably weren't proud of, maybe right after the moment, certainly now. But it didn't seem to be as fatal, okay? It didn't seem to be as final. And what I'm at a loss from, and I like to listen to people like yourself, people your age range, when I'm talking to a class or when I'm on Zoom with an organization, is kind of what do they think? One of the things that I believe we've got to do is we've got to make sure that adults are held accountable. If they possess a handgun that a juvenile comes in contact with, that has to be one aspect of it. Number two, we've got to continue to educate young people about the dangers of guns, period. Number three, because somebody is rapping about it, because somebody's posting about it, don't make it real. Don't mean you got to follow it. And so we've got to kind of ramp down a little bit in terms of what people take into their ears and what they take into their minds and what they do with their mouths and their hands. That's, a collective effort. And then certainly, we want to make sure that from a legal standpoint, we're holding those people accountable. I mentioned the police has confiscated over 1,650 guns last year. That's a lot of guns that people should not have. Not all of them were young people, by the way. Let me be clear, because we often prescribe too much on young people. A lot of this is on adults. But in terms of young people, we don't want people to feel like they have to take a gun to school or they have to take a gun to an after-school event or weekend event or a game because they think that somebody else has one. And if you hear things that are happening, let our police department know. Let us worry about whether or not it's rumor or fact. It may be rumor, but I'd rather play it safe. I don't want to see what happened in Mobile at a football game happen here, where you go to a football game and somebody starts shooting. So what we want to do is, I think it's a partnership of education. It's a partnership of letting us know what's happening. A lot of your peers do just that. We have stifled some other incidents at schools and in communities that we wouldn't have been able to do without somebody picking up the phone and calling the police. So let me be clear about that. That is happening. But I think we also want to make sure that as policymakers, which is what we had a direct impact of being able to do, is that we fight bills like the permitless carry bill that right now is before our legislature. We may need you to help us lobby the government. We may call on you to help us go down to the legislature, because they probably will take the words coming from you and your friends better than they will take it from me. Because they have to know that we've got young leaders like yourself who are concerned about this, and we've got young leaders who will call on adults, those of us in policy-making positions, to do something about it. And so that's what we have to do, is really work together from a policy standpoint, work together from listening to you all in terms of your feedback and what we can do, and then partner with our police and partner with so many of our mentors and community leaders around this city to make sure that we're doing everything we can to take away the thought that a disagreement has to be fine. A disagreement has to be fine. There are a whole lot of fights that happen in Golden Alleys. This ain't the first fight that happened in Beverly Hills. Those fights were happening when I was in high school. But you wasn't shooting up places like that. Sure. Okay? And so there's a little difference there. There were disagreements at high schools, at Lee High School. When I was at JD, there were disagreements at JD. People weren't shooting like that as they are now. So the issue is, one, how do they get them? Working with our federal partners, I think Chief Harris and others, we have been doing that over the last, even before Chief Harris came on, we've been doing that over the last year to work with the ATF, which is a federal law enforcement agency, the FBI, to help us with trafficking, and also to help us with those gun shows. And let me be clear for the press that's here. There has to be some accountability for those that are at gun shows that are selling and distributing these guns to people, and young people, they know what shouldn't happen. So it's not all that they're breaking in. Yes, they're breaking into cars and they're taking them out underneath the seat. That's happening when people lock up their cars and put away their guns. But we've also got some bad actors systematically here that aren't helping, that are making the problem worse. And that's ending up in the hands of people, again, who may not know that they can walk away. Who may not know that, you know what, a good run is better than a bad stand any day. And it's okay to just walk away and just say, you know what, I'll let you have it. And we'll come back together, we'll figure it out. They don't understand that. And so we have to make sure we do our part as policymakers, and then we have to make sure that we continue to listen to you, your classmates, your organization, your peers, and people in your neighborhood about some other initiatives that we can do to get guns off the streets and out of the hands of not just young people, because not all young people are doing this, but even those adults who don't need to have them, and we got to continue to work on that. So thank you so much for that question.
Okay, I want to just add on. I want to go ahead and just say a little bit behind it also, because reducing gun violence is one of the big initiatives that we have going, closing out the 2021 year and also going into the 2022 year. So like the mayor said, it comes back to accountability. And oftentimes when you look at people saying it's teens, it's young groups, it's everybody. It's accountability on everybody, whether it's a gun show, whether it's the people in the neighborhood that know the persons, the ones who are carrying firearms. If it's our family members, it takes personal accountability from every member in the community to resolve the issues that we're seeing with gun violence. The mayor mentioned the numbers of approximately 1,650 firearms that we confiscated off the street this year. When you look at the other numbers that he didn't mention, we talk about 166 warrants that we secured for violation of license to carry, 49 warrants for certain persons forbidden to carry a firearm. The sheriff's office, over 490 denials on pistols and pistol permits this year. So firearms is a big problem for everybody, but also what everybody has to come to terms and agree with it. It's a personal accountability for every member of our society to reduce the issues of gun violence and what we see with these handguns. We've been working with Montgomery Public Schools, Crime Stoppers, trying to put that awareness out there. But it's those conversations that have to start right home, at our homes, in our own homes, in our living rooms. Even if our kids are not involved, they may know somebody that's involved. So it starts with each and every one of us. And I know a lot of you all are already doing that, you're already in the fight. But it's gonna take that village collaboration, that village partnership and voice for everybody to be able to be impactful in reducing gun violence in our community. That's something that we're going to continue to do with the Montgomery Police Department. We definitely need the community support. We may not know every offender, every perpetrator. You may not want to tell them, but you may know them, and it may save their own life. We see the lives that we've lost over the 2021 year, so we all have to address this issue of gun violence, whether it's through legislation or whether it's through sitting at home in our own front rooms, in our own couches, talking to relatives, having those uncomfortable conversations if we know those that are involved. So we definitely encourage everybody to continue to be supportive of that, reducing gun violence initiative by educating each other and taking care of each other. Village to Raise a Child concept with everybody being involved.
Thanks, Chief. I know that, thank you. I know that we're going over our time. That's probably because we talked.
Thank y'all so much, Untitled Magazine, for tuning in. If y'all want to watch the rest of the town hall, make sure y'all follow the City of Montgomery on Facebook or go to the YouTube page. Thank y'all for following. Share this video. Go time. We be better.